Hey everyone, welcome to the ninth Lido node operator community call. We have a three-segment agenda and a really quick update in the beginning on the progress of the Lido on Ethereum Wave 5 onboarding. Will is going to take us through the status update of how the onboarding round is going and the evaluations are progressing. Then we're going to have Eridian present to us about distributed validator setup in Kenya. Then we're going to have Dapplion from ChainSafe present to us how ChainSafe is running Lodestar at scale, running over, I think it's over 8,000 validators at this point. And lastly, we're going to have a presentation from Frontier Research about their new MEV boost relay. First up as well, Will, whenever you're ready, take it away.
Perfect. So as you mentioned, I'm Will. I'm a contributor to the Lido DAO and the Node Operator Management Workstream. We'll be discussing stage 2 of the Wave 5 onboarding. So just as a quick recap, this onboarding round was run in 2 stages. Stage 1 ended about a month ago now, and 2 node operators were shortlisted. These are launch nodes and sensei nodes. So both of these node operators have successfully deposited keys to Lido. The validators have been funded, but due to the entry queue, the validators are not yet active. So there's still slightly less than 2 weeks before these validators will be active. Before that time, the node operators will likely submit more keys so that they have keys in the buffer. Governance motion will pass from there via easy track so that they're well prepared, assuming that performance looks good and that they are operating these validators appropriately. They will then start to receive additional deposit flow, likely by mid-September. So in terms of stage 2, and this is really what is taking place and has been taking place for the last 4 weeks or so. So out of 116 total applicants to the Wave 5 onboarding round, 14 were assessed in stage 1, 2 were shortlisted. The remaining 12 are included in these 110 candidates that are being assessed this week by the Lido Node Operator Sub-Governance Group. As a reminder, this is the evaluation committee that is made up of Lido on Ethereum, Lido on Solana, and Lido on Polygon node operators. They will assess the applications. Many of the applicants have had meetings or follow-up calls where there was additional information required from their applications. Because of the number of applicants in this onboarding round, it is possible another meeting will be required. But if not, you can expect to see a shortlist proposal to the DAO by the end of this week or by the end of next week if another meeting is required. So the goals for this onboarding round consisted of improving client infrastructure and geographic diversity, more specifically, reducing the concentration of validators via the protocol that are using Geth, Prism, and Lighthouse, continuing to decrease reliance on public cloud, and moving to geographies which are less well represented by both the Lido and overall Ethereum node operator set. So assuming the shortlist proposal, the snapshot vote to the DAO should go live by September 7th on next week. During that process, if the vote goes well, an optimistic onboarding process will go ahead of the mainnet, or rather the on-chain vote via Aragon. So the operators will have an opportunity to set up their testnet infrastructure, test exits, make sure that the validators are performing. Then the on-chain vote will follow later on in September. And following that, they will be able to submit keys to mainnet as well. So due to the entry queue, we'd expect to see the first validators from this cohort on mainnet in early to mid-October. And at that point, there will be a given number of new node operators participating in the protocol. During the last LNOSG evaluation call, it was discussed that around 7 to 9 might be onboarded. Again, this is up to the DAO, and there will be a DAO discussion over the next couple of weeks when that shortlist is proposed for the DAO to weigh in, make any necessary changes, or to go ahead with the proposed shortlist. So we'll keep it tight. Thanks very much. If there's any questions, happy to take them.
I don't see any hands up, so I think we're all good to go with the next segment. Thanks, Will. So Eridian is up, and he's going to tell us about his adventures helping set up a distributed validator in Africa.
Okay, hello.
Hello.
Hi, everyone. Let me just get set up for you. So yes, thanks for handing over. So I'm Eridian from today, coming to you from DV Stakers. So DV Stakers, we are a small team. We've got Eridian, Spacesider, Metanil, and Snapcrackle. And who is DV Stakers and what do we do? So DV Stakers, we're an educational initiative around all things DVT with a growing global network of solo stakers and running Ethereum nodes and DVT validators. We'll go into more details about what that means in DVT, but just say we're a small educational community. We, Spacesider and myself, we started in the ETHStaker community, helping people with the ETHStaker knowledge base. And from that, we saw DVT as this growing technology that didn't have a huge amount of educational resources about it, something people we thought would benefit from knowing more about. So we started DV Stakers in ETH Denver this year, and since then have just been testing and growing all the distributed validator technology solutions available. Okay, so this is where we're running right now. We're running validators in America, the UK, in Germany, in Australia, and the presentation to talking about today is Kenya. So why Kenya? Well, I had some family connections and some friends out there that were interested in learning more about Ethereum, and I've been talking to them about staking and DVT. And they wanted to know more, so I spoke to James Snapcrackle from the who works at the EF, but this is in his capacity as a DV Stakers contributor, just an educational contributor. We flew out there and worked with a local community to set this up. So I'm going to talk through with you now how we set that up, the process we went about doing that, and our plans for the future. Okay, so what did it look like? To start with, what did we need? Well, we needed somewhere to put the node. And initially, just to get this as a proof of concept and to get this working, we set it up in a co-working space, an office that is in the center of Nairobi in the central business district, just a small little office, as you can see on the right there. And that was a space where we could set it up and test everything was working. It also meant that because it was a co-working space, that we could have our local supporters and contributors use the space and join and help fix things if they go wrong and be part of the DV Stakers Kenya community with that. This is some context around what it is and where it is. So what did we actually set up? Well, the equipment, everything was sourced, everything that could be sourced locally was. So when we arrived, we went and bought all the cables we needed, everything. There's a UPS there to make sure we don't have any interruptions in the power supply. The only things that we brought to Kenya were the nodes themselves, and that's because they were donated by Dapnode and HomeNode. Okay, so what did it look like when we were getting set up? Well, we did some initial testing around how we could get it to work, but it was as simple as just plugging it in and it working. You can see there you've got the two machines. You've got the home node on the left, which is a heatsink machine, and the Dapnode branded machine there on the right. And the laptop is to interface with both of them. The webcam is so that we could display it online and also keep an eye on it when we're not there as well. And on the right, this is us going to some local markets and buying some souvenirs and some things to put around it to make it a bit more Kenya branded. So what does that look like? Well, this is it in the finished state, with the idea being that it doesn't need to be touched very often. This is the point of staking, particularly solo staking. It's not as scary as a lot of people think. It can be left there and just run itself for months and months without needing any physical interaction. And particularly with the UPS, the power supply and the internet being a direct connection, it's been incredibly stable. The internet speed wasn't as high as most people think. We've got 50 megabytes up and down there, and it's able to cope pretty well. So that being said, let's move on. So we got this is what the webcam can see. This is the live view that we have now all the time. Viewing the setup, you can see there you can actually view the screen directly and see how the logs are doing. And if we go on to a more live view, this is what it looks like at any given moment. This is what we're seeing, and that's just I think the Nethermine logs rolling there. Also, it's quite handy. You can see the flashing lights on the nodes, so you can tell that they're okay just by looking at them with the webcam as an added bonus. So this was a proof of concept. Not necessarily to scale this out in this exact way, but to just show that we could set up a full node in Kenya and also run DVT validators. And that's what I'm going to show you now what is actually running. So that is the hardware side of it, what we did, who we worked with, and how we got it set up. And now I'm going to talk through what's running on the machine and then our future plans for the node. So what's running on the machine? Now, DappNode is the software that's running. And the main reason for that is that it is free open source software and it is incredibly easy to use. There'd be no point us going out there and setting up some custom configuration or trying to do it just on the command line, and then no one else was able to support it or learn from it. The idea is to make it as simple and as easy as possible, and that's what we have. That's what we have here. So the software itself is DappNode, but we have the two machines, and home node is something that a guy called Florian is working on. It's building very low cost hardware with really good specs that can run the full chains and everything we see here really well. And there's also a machine and the software provided by DappNode. And what we've got running here is a full node with on mainnet and testnet running on the same machine. That may not be hugely performant once we get to start running mainnet validators due to like CPU usage and things like that. But for testing right now, it's great to see that we could sync and run both chains comfortably. So we have mainnet running and testnet, and you can see that this is a 2 terabyte disk, and it's able to run both side by side for a while before we have to do any pruning or database reduction there. So what's actually running on the box? Well, we said about DVT. There's the two DVT operators that we're testing at the moment are SSV and OBOL. So this is an example with the SSV operator, the DV Stakers Kenya, you can see there. And all we had to do was on DappNode install the SSV package, register the operator with Goerli SSV contract, and it now exists. It is a zero fee operator, as are all the DV Stakers operators on the SSV Goerli testnet, which means that anybody that wants to be part of this or spin up a validator and experience what it's like to validate globally and know where they are, DV Stakers Kenya is an option for that right now. Anyone can select that and use it and be validating in Kenya. And it's as performant as we've seen as all the other ones. The latency is not particularly high, and it's really performant and keeping up well with all of the others. You can also see on the list there, we're running on Raspberry Pis. There's the space side of Raspberry Pi just below the Kenya node as well. So we're trying lots of different things at DV Stakers to check everything works and to make it as simple as possible. We've also got here the OBOL versions. This is an OBOL cluster, and this is a DV Stakers cluster that we're testing out with people all over the world. So that map that I showed at the start of where all the different pins are, this is DV Stakers, one of the main OBOL clusters we have running. And one of the operators inside of that cluster, called Smiling Colors in this case, is the Kenya node. And that is as good and as performant again as all the others, and just proving that it can be done and it can work. So that was the OBOL operator. And this is just a shot at the end when we finish setting it up. That's myself and James from the EF at the end. Okay, so that's where we got to, proving it can be done. It's still quite a safe environment because it's a co-working space, an office building with fairly stable power supplies and generators and things like that. So what's next? So rural Kenya. So we started in Nairobi and I spent a few days there, and then I also went out to a rural village, a Maasai village, where a few of my friends live, and spoke to them about what it would take to get this set up in a rural village in Kenya. What it'd be like to have it in their house. So solo staking from home, DVT validation, but in rural Kenya. Now, with this, again, DappNode and home node fit perfectly with that. We're also working with people on what it's like to have Starlink, to use Starlink for full node validators and other options around that. Maybe not necessarily running full nodes, but just running the validator clients, just running OBOL and SSV potentially as well to try out some other options there. But this is what we're looking at doing as our next steps to really push it to the extremes and see if it can be done. From what we've seen so far, we don't see any reason why it can't be. There are some limitations around using Starlink and bandwidth and various things, but these are, if it can be done, we want to try it. And if it can't be done, then DV Stakers is going to write up why and create that educational content either way. So this is the next steps plans. Who's it going to benefit? Now, more than just that single house that I just showed you, which is where the node would be housed. This is a local community. This is a local school with about 83 children here. And this is the staff on the left and the children there on the right. And what this would do is be able to, well, two things. First of all, the income that would be earned from running the validators through various DVT DVT protocols and various like LST protocols and pools would mean that they can earn an income and earn money that would be used for this local community. And also, if the node itself was paying for things like the Starlink internet connection that I showed, that is not just used then for the node, that's able to provide a stable internet connection for the community. And then if you say, well, actually, the node also would benefit from stable electricity, which may not be a guarantee, then you talk about getting solar panels and potentially backup generators, which wouldn't just serve that single house, but would also provide amazing resources for that local community as well. So this is actively what we're doing right now and pushing it as far as we can to benefit these local communities and just really make it happen. Okay, and then finally, the future plans is to do that and to keep doing that. DV Stakers is just an educational organization, just an initiative, just a group of people that want to see this happen and to push it further. There's lots of places that would benefit from doing this. We don't necessarily have to go out like I did in Kenya and do that. But if we can create the resources, show it's possible, create the documentation and the content to give people the support to do that, then that's what we want to achieve. That's our main goal. We say it's to level the playing field of the Ethereum staking ecosystem, to make it so that it's not just people running mega clusters in AWS with on-call support teams that can provide the best effectiveness, the best uptimes, and get the financial benefits and decentralization benefits of Ethereum staking, but everyone should be able to do that. And that is what we're pushing, the reality of it, decentralizing the beacon chain. Okay, there you go. So that was all the information about the Kenya node and what we've been doing so far. We're on dvstakers.com, and I just put a screenshot of the bottom of the page here where you can see it's be part of our community. And with that, we have a Twitter where you can follow on our updates about how things are going with the Kenya node and our future plans. And we also have a Discord server, which is quite small, but it's a really active little community where we talk about DVT things and what we're working on. We're also going to be heading out to DevConnect in Istanbul. There'll be a few of us there with big DV Stakers t-shirts on, just like this, where we'll be filming some one-on-one interviews with solo stakers, asking them what they think about DVT and what they know about it and how they'd like to get involved in future, and just building up that knowledge, that community, and growing from there. So that's DV Stakers and the Kenya node. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you, Eridian. I already see some questions, at least in the Zoom chat. So
yeah,
we'll go through this really quickly.
Let me pull that up.
Yeah, so I had some questions. The different like validators or operators rather that are a part of the cluster, how have you guys distributed them across the world?
The actual validators themselves.
Yeah, sorry, like the operators of each cluster. Like, is it the map that you showed in the beginning where you have somebody in basically every like major continent?
Yeah, so the idea is that right now, the team we have Methanol, Snapcrackle, myself, and Space Cider, and that's where those pins physically are. They are nodes running in people's houses. So that's just where it's distributed right now. But we have had people join the Discord and say, hey, I want to be part of DV Stakers. Can I run a node? And they are running just the validator clients. And actually, I've got probably about 10 people around the world pointing just their OBOL or their SSV operators just to my machine in my house. So they don't have to have the full hardware requirements of running the chain, but they can still participate in testing the operators. So it's however people want to get involved. But right now, it's just distributed mostly for testing. We're trying to do latency testing and understand how it works. And that's why the distribution's like this.
That's really, really cool. That's awesome. I'm going to read some of the questions from Zoom chat so that the people that are watching on the stream can also get the question. So we had one of the questions, one of the people asking, how is the Raspberry Pi performing?
Yes, the Raspberry Pi is performing really well. It was a bit of a challenge to get it set up, and it doesn't work. It's not super compatible with DApp node, unfortunately, at the moment, but from a performance perspective, just running the client, because we're not running the full chain, the Raspberry Pi is just running the client, just running the SSV and the OBOL operators, which means that it's actually more than enough to run just those, and those are then pointing to full chains that are running elsewhere, and we have a network of full chains that can support that. So the Raspberry Pi is doing really well. It's surprising how well it works. I was really happy with that.
Awesome. The next question was about Starlink. and I'll actually tack on another question onto this. Did you guys figure out if there's any other like viable, let's say, bandwidth alternatives to getting connectivity via Starlink? And if it's only Starlink, what kind of cost would somebody that, like, I don't want to do this in in a rural area of a place like Kenya, what kind of cost would they be looking at? And is there sufficient bandwidth to maybe spread this like this cost around across like a village, or maybe you get a couple of Starlinks for like a village?
Yeah, so that's what we've been looking at. I mean, I think I retweeted or something. Starlink said we're now available in Kenya like a month ago. So it was really good timing. I shared it in the DV Stakers Discord. It was perfect. So yes, it's available. The cost, I think it is quite high at the moment, in the hundreds of dollars range. So it's not necessarily like completely viable for this. But as I said, the cost distribution, or being able to share it as part of a local community, like one Starlink in a local village like that, would support would be able to support a lot of different use cases or uses, particularly with the school and different communities there. So right now it's just a proof of concept to show how it works. There are some technical limitations around using Starlink and other issues there that we want to understand. So we just want to try it first and see. So more information to follow. If you follow DV Stakers, we'll update you as soon as we have that.
Got it. Thank you. Super useful. I don't see any more questions in the Zoom chat, so thank you very much. Indeed, really cool project. And I see some people from the Zoom chat have already joined the Discord, and they say that it's buzzing, and like there's a lot of people trying to get more of these DV nodes set up. So that's really cool to see.
That's great. Thank you.
Okay. Up next, we have Dapplion, who's going to tell us about running Lodestar at scale.
Hello, everyone. Is my audio good?
Yeah.
Hey, so I'm Dapplion, the team lead at Lodestar, and I want to share our experiences with developing the client and running it at scale. So first, a bit of background, like what is Lodestar? Lodestar is the 5th consensus client in order of addition to the production ready list. It's written in TypeScript. Currently, it has between 1% and 2% of mainnet share, and we have managed to have an excellent team of 7 full-time protocol devs and 1 PM. We have now performance on par with all other CLs, as we will display later, and with resource characteristics that are on par to other clients or better in different situations. Here, in both situations, I'm quoting different Mega Labs studies that they have done to benchmark the clients. So the main operator running Lodestar is the chainsafe one, where we basically dog food at scale. We run Lodestar exclusively with 1 EL to 1 CL to NVCs set up. We use multiple rescue nodes to have 0 downtime rollouts and multiple providers. And as you can see, we have an effectiveness rating on par with the network at the moment, which slightly fluctuates depending on network conditions, but it's pretty good. So I think this is the summary. Like, Lodestar has been production ready for, I would say, well over a year now. I think we are now at the point where we have proven performance, at the point that we feel very confident recommending Lodestar to the wider community. So I would like to address some of the FAQ that we get. So why is adoption so low compared to other clients? Well, as you know, stakers are very sticky. The network effects are severe. And Lodestar suffers from just joining the party later than others. And this is pretty hard to overcome. We are doing our best, but it's a reality. It's good that it's not as severe in the consensus layer. We have seen how stakers have a more fluid behavior in this layer than in execution, where getting people to move away from Geth has been proven very difficult. In our case, we have to address the JavaScript meme, which it's there, but I want to counterpoint that. So Lodestar is a client written in TypeScript, which is a superset of JavaScript. Initially with the focus to develop like clients, which we are still actively doing, and this is a big part of how we contribute to the open source public good of Ethereum. However, the advantage of JavaScript is that it's a very fast language to develop. So an example of how that manifests is we are always ahead in devnets. So for Dankun, as you know, it's on heavy testing. We have multiple devnets rolling out. Lodestar is usually the first to be feature ready, which is another advantage that can be an incentive for both large operators and users, where if you ask us for a feature, usually the rollout of this feature is really fast, thanks to this. Also, I will touch on this later, but as you know, the beacon chain is designed with anti-correlation penalties. So having unique trade-offs and different approaches is very important. And that's something that Lodestar does. One, for our specific structure of the client, and due to the fact that it's JavaScript. There was an incident about 1 or 2 months ago where the beacon chain lose finality, and only Lighthouse and Lodestar kept up due to our unique decisions on how to architect the client. So risk mitigation is key. And the fundamental, I think everyone here is aware of why client diversity is important in the beacon chain, but correlation penalties are a significant risk that everyone should be aware of. Still, we are doing great. We don't have Prism above 66% anymore, but still any client above 1/3 is a significant risk. So still spreading out the load on other clients is great. And specifically for everyone that runs a scale, just running as many implementations as possible is good. There are many setups that help you mitigate the risk, which I will not address here, that many of you may be aware of, like Vouch and others, and also protocols like DBT make big use of this. So unless there is consensus against multiple clients, then the Validator client may refuse to process these messages. And so here, incorporating different clients with different approaches in the mix helps you be more resilient against bugs that can happen and have happened. So as I was saying, we are now at the point that we are really confident on Lodestar and it's production ready. We have been running a user incentive program for the last 6 months, where we put a pool of cash to everyone that could produce a block with Lodestar, which we are now betting by running block print. We concluded the program this week and had 350 unique participants. That is individuals by depositor address that are not large stakeholder pools or associated with ChainSafe or Lodestar. So I would say this has been a huge success. We have many people coming through the Discord and getting help and saying Lodestar, so it was really, really nice to see. So yeah, I would encourage anyone in this call to contact us. You can join the Discord, you can reach out to me personally on Telegram or to our PM on Twitter. As I said, we have a very, very supportive team, very supportive community. Any issues that you have, any feature requests that you may have is great. So if you are interested in either reducing your risk, diversifying your setup, or contributing to client diversity in general, please feel free to reach out. And yeah, thank you so much, Lido, for the opportunity. And that's all. Thank you.
Thanks, Dapplion. I have a couple of questions, actually.
Sure.
So one of the first ones has to do with something that you mentioned in the beginning of the presentation, that initially Lodestar was kind of a light client-focused client implementation. What is the progress that you guys have like around light clients right now, and how do you see Lodestar's future as like a light client-focused implementation?
Yeah, so we actually have had a very interesting conversation around this topic with Nimbus. They actually hired a business development person just for this purpose, and they quickly pivoted into branding themselves as a light client to just we just run a really good client. In Lodestar, we structure this in parallel, so we have some people that are fully developed to the client, and at least at the moment, one person developing what we call a Lodestar prover. This is a middleware that could interface with the JSON RPC and provide you any data from the JSON RPC in a trustless way. Well, all data is verified. This has not that much adoption yet due to its performance characteristics, but we are pushing the technology. There are other groups like I think Paradigm is doing their own like client with very similar characteristics. So that's something that we are helping push into the future, but it's kind of parallel to Lodestar and the other public goods that we're doing.
Got it. Thank you. The next question that I had was actually around something that you mentioned, or sorry, it's actually something that somebody mentioned in the YouTube chat. So the newest release, well, not the one that's like almost being released right now, but the previous one from a couple of weeks ago.
1.10.
Yeah, V110 saw like tremendous performance improvements. So what kind of changes and how did you approach like identifying what things needed to be tweaked? Did you guys use in order to figure that out? And like what changes did you make?
Sure. So when you have a sync client, what takes the most resources by far is processing attestations. So what we have been optimizing is how you can process as little attestations as possible while still having positive impact to your network peers and fulfilling all your duties. So one of the key things that we have adopted is a different strategy for the attestation backbone. This is a proposal that H. Manning opened many months ago and was recently merged to the spec. So related to the development speed that I was talking about, we developed this really quickly and merged it in, and we're just basically benefiting from this new strategy. I would imagine other clients would roll this out in time, but combining this with a much more efficient strategy around aggregation, it massively reduced bandwidth and in turn CPU time.
Super interesting. Thank you. And last kind of question before we go into the next segment. Are there any kind of like future improvements that you guys have in mind, or like what is the next kind of big feature set or functionality that you guys are targeting? Does it have to do with like database rewrites, for example, that a lot of client teams are looking at, or how to work towards like vertical trees, or like what do you consider?
Yeah, so we have many things going on at the same time, like forks. I wanted to say like Denkun and vertical trees. For the main client, yeah, we are working on optimizing DB. As our main focus is not archive nodes, but just regular stickers. I think we have some ideas on how to significantly optimize disk storage to have minimal footprint. And the other thing is now Holesky, the network, is coming up. And that's going to be a huge challenge, I think, for all the clients, because it's gonna make us forced to run Lodestar at a network that is double the size of mainnet. So that will be a huge opportunity to run a lot of experiments and from there derive optimizations that we can apply to the main client to reduce like resources and risk and resilience on many different fronts.
Awesome. Thanks a lot for those insights. And we'll keep working to try to get more and more Lido node operators to start using Lodestar. Actually, the one I remember one last thing that I wanted to ask. What is the interoperability between Lodestar and like, let's say, the leading distributed validator infrastructures like right now? So if somebody's interested in running distributed validator, how might they go about using Lodestar? Like, does it work well with SSV has their own validator client, but does it work well with Obol already, or is there still stuff that needs to be worked on?
Yes, it should be fully compatible. We have been working on that on the last months. We have been chatting with them, also Rocket Pool, and basically everyone else that integrates with CLs. So it's compatible. We are integrating many of those in our CI, so we can provide you programmatical assurance, but from testing it works. And yeah, and if it doesn't, please reach out. We will fix it very quickly and issue a bug release for you.
Awesome. That's great to hear. Thank you very much. Okay. Last up, we have Stefan from Frontier Research, who's going to present to us the new MEV boost relay that they're working on.
All right. Hello.
Hey, welcome.
Going. All right. I think there's a little video that's going to play. This is what AD put together. Oh no, unable to play it.
I think, yeah, it's
There you go. Cool. Hey everyone. Anyways, I'm Stefan. I am the founder over at Frontier Research. Yeah, so today we're just gonna have a quick conversation about the relay that we've put together and we're launching. We're in the sort of beta testing phase of it. It's deployed on Onboarding and mainnet right now. And I'm happy to sort of first walk through what Frontier is and sort of what we exist and why we exist, and then answer any questions about the relay. Hopefully, the goal is to get some people to start connecting with it and help us test it. So Frontier Research, independent research organization. We are working with a variety of different teams across the transaction supply chain. We had a nice event in Paris a few weeks back where we brought a few of the people that we work together. The goal really is to sort of help accelerate the development of MEV infrastructure towards something that is positive sum, something that creates value for the Ethereum ecosystem and the crypto ecosystem as a whole, and sort of helps fulfill the promise that that crypto has for the world.
Hey, Stefan, sorry to interrupt. I think for some reason we're not seeing the presentation. It just shows a window that says click to exit full screen. Is it possible when you go into slideshow mode that it's projecting to another screen?
Yeah, that might be the case. Maybe I can just keep it on this.
Yeah.
On the side window. Okay, I'll pick up where I was. So we published a manifesto that shares a bit about how we think of MEV infrastructure as a whole, which is titled Infinite Games. We sort of cover how our goal at Frontier is to help design and bootstrap some of these games using both our research arm as well as the adventures arm. We are helping incubate the Faith Builder F1B, who is participating in sort of the block building solving game. And then we're now starting the Frontier block space relay that I'm excited to talk about. We sort of see the entire infrastructure around MEV to evolve to be much more complex than the original transaction supply chain. That's very linear. There's going to be a bunch of different complex interactions between the different components in order to sort of resolve user needs and provide the maximum amount of value to the end users. And we see the success of designing this kind of infrastructure to be maximizing the total welfare or total value across all the stakeholders in the system, rather than sort of linearly looking at redistribution of who gets the value that's involved here. So we're sort of reframing the conversation around this. I'll sort of talk a little bit about the relay that we're launching now. So the goal was to, one, increase relay diversity, two, to help bring some performance optimization around block space value and minimizing missed slots. So I'd love to get in touch with anyone in the Lido community that's operating validators and have discussion around how they can optimize their setups for those two things. Another goal is to help introduce some of these next gen features that we see coming down the pipe for relays. So I think there's a lot of discussion now around the future of PBS and the introduction of mechanisms like PEPC. And we see the relay as being the right place for a lot of that innovation to take place. And we're excited to introduce some of those features into our relay. Although right now our relay is just sort of a vanilla copy of the other relays, we will sort of over the course of the next few months be developing advanced features for it. And yeah, so we're in open beta right now, and we're basically collecting feedback on our deployments to help optimize around the validators that we're servicing. So yeah, any questions?
Yeah, I've got a couple. So it's always really great to see a new relay operator and in general new relays in the space. Relay diversity and of course other things like builder diversity are really crucial for credible neutrality of the system. In terms of the kind of like new features that you were talking about that you anticipate to be rolling out in like the PBS ecosystem, what kind of new features are you envisioning, or is that something that you don't want to talk about quite yet?
I think it's still at the early research stage, but maybe more broadly, PEPC, what it enables, it allows proposer enforce commitments, right? And so it's saying like a proposer can say, hey, relay, I want you to enforce this list of constraints and this policy on how the blocks that I'm willing to validate or propose should look like. Basically we see sort of relays as being a venue for enforcing those commitments.
Got it. Makes sense. So the idea is kind of like building optionality, I guess, or almost like we're thinking about intents for like on-chain dexes, right? But allowing proposers to have that interactions with builders. So if a proposer says that like I only want to build blocks that adhere to certain rules, and those rules might be like quote unquote OFAC compliancy.
Yeah, it could be any rule. So it could say like, hey, I don't want to do like any backrunning, sandwiching, or like whatever else. The rules at the end of the day are sort of around any sort of construction that the validator wants to enforce.
Okay, that's cool. And so instead of having like multiple different relays, which is like a model that exists right now that conform to different rules, you can just use one relay. And then the rules are communicated between the proposer and the relay through the relay. The proposer and the block builders through the relay infrastructure.
Yeah, exactly. So the relay sort of constrains the construction that they accept from the builders and are sort of in charge of enforcing it. They communicate the policies to the builders on sort of whatever validator registration that they are also communicating.
Got it. Makes sense. That's really cool. One of the other things that we've noticed talking to node operators the last couple of months is that as they're trying to like increase their geographic diversity and starting to run validators in underserved geographies like Asia, Southeast Asia, like Far East Asia, Middle East, and even places like Africa or Latin America, that they're having problems with like block times basically. What is the geographic distribution of your relay going to be like?
So right now it's deployed in Asia, and part of the reason for that is to like test this, right? See how much latency does this introduce into the block proposal times, and is there a way to have a performant relay that's out there without compromising on missed slots or on block value. Eventually we'll have it geo-distributed and have some probably internal routing that just allow the validator to connect to whichever the ones that they're the closest to. But for the initial testing phase and beta phase, that's where we're deployed.
Okay, that's really great. We'll definitely let the node operators that are running validators and nodes out of Asia to heavily test that, because they're usually the ones that complain about block times because the network is what it is. That's awesome to hear.
Yeah.
And are you considering or at least from what I understand, currently you're using like the Flashbots code base. Are you considering creating your own entire code base, or are the modifications that you're going to do going to be forks of the Flashbots code base?
That's not sure yet. Yeah, that depends on what the most modifications end up being. I think we'll probably end up doing a mix of the two. there's just because of the licenses that like Flashbots is running, there's some limitations to what like can be done on that code base. But certainly for the modifications that we do make to that code base, we'll make sure to share them.
Got it. Cool. That's great. Thanks. I'm trying to see if there's any questions on the YouTube chat. I don't see any, and I don't see any on Zoom either. Thanks a lot for the presentation. Maybe you can replay the video because I think we missed it basically.
Yeah, sure.
The graphics look really cool.
There we go.
Oh, nice. Does it
Cute
also
little
have like a MIDI soundtrack or?
I hope so. No, I don't think it does.
Ah, too bad.
It's gonna add. Okay, thanks for having me.
Awesome. Thanks a lot. And we'll definitely get the node operators to start testing it out.
Perfect.
Okay. Thanks a lot, everyone. That concludes it for the segments that we had for this community call. The next community call, as always, is scheduled to be on the last Tuesday of every month. So most likely September 26th will be the next one. If you have ideas about things that you would like to see featured on the call, topics that you would like discussed, or potentially you have something that you would like to discuss, anything around staking initiatives, research, or like projects that you do around the staking ecosystem, please let us know and we'd be glad to feature it. Thanks, everybody. Thanks to all of the presenters, and have a good rest of the day. Bye-bye.